Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD, pro physique athlete. Today I'm going to be giving you a full 4-day hypertrophy program designed for women using the upper-lower split. The upper-lower split is a highly versatile setup that's one of my favorite for 4 days per week. And this program can potentially also work for 5 or 6 days per week. There is a slight lower body and glute emphasis for the ladies. For any guys watching this, make sure you share this with the ladies in your life. I'm sure they'll find a way to thank you. It's really a win-win for everyone. We'll start off with a program walkthrough where I'll share everything you'll need to know to run the program yourself, including exercises, sets, and reps. Then we'll talk about the weekly layout or how to spread out your workouts across the week. And finally, we'll talk about the pros and cons of this women's 4-day upper-lower program. All right, let's do our program walkthrough. This is Dr. Swole's women's 4-day upper-lower program. It is a low volume program well designed for beginners or people who respond well to low volumes. We have lower body day 1, upper body day 1, lower body day 2, and upper body day 2. Here are the exercises and there are the sets and reps. Down here we have the total number of sets for each workout so you have an idea of workout length. And down here we have the total number of sets for each muscle group each week. As you can see, there's a pretty balanced program. It's low volume overall except for the glutes, so there will be some glute emphasis here. Let's start off with lower body day 1. We start off with barbell hip thrusts for the glutes, 3 sets of 6 to 10. Here I'm treating barbell hip thrust as a main heavy compound movement. That is, I'm placing it first in your workout and giving it a lot of priority here. I'm also asking you to go heavy on this. Make sure you're really pushing the weight and going for progressive overload. Next, we have Romanian deadlifts for the glutes and hamstrings, 3 sets of 6 to 10. Then we have wide stance leg presses for the quads, but also the glutes, 3 sets of 8 to 12. For these, try placing your feet wide and high. This will de-emphasize your quads and place more stress on your glutes. Keep in mind that you could also just do regular leg presses here if glutes aren't so much your main focus. When you're done with these, you can use the leg press to do calf raises. We're using a MyRep scheme here. So you're going to work up to 1 main set of 8 to 12 reps, followed by 5 mini sets of 3 to 5 reps, taking only about 10 seconds of rest in between all of these. The idea behind this is that you're taking short rests so that you're staying close to failure on all these mini sets and you're able to get in a lot of productive training in a short amount of time. I'm approximating this as 4 straight sets. Then we have leg curls for the hamstrings, 3 sets of 10 to 15, and finally machine hip abduction for the glutes, 2 sets of 12 to 20. The abduction movement targets your gluteus medius and minimus. Meanwhile, our other lower body movements mainly involve hip extension, and that's going to target your gluteus maximus. Now for complete glute development, note that you want to have 4 main movement patterns represented in each of your lower body workouts. That is a squat type movement, which will involve leg presses and lunge type movements, a hip hinge, which will include deadlifts and deadlift variations, a thrusting type movement, and an abduction movement. You'll see that those 4 movement patterns are represented in both of my lower body workouts. I took this system from Brett Contreras after having him on my podcast. He is the leading science researcher in glute development, so you can look him up for more. Going on to upper body day 1, we start off with bench press for the chest, 4 sets of 5 to 8. I'm giving you this rep range of 5 to 8 so you can do what you want in terms of progressive overload. This will work itself well to single progression, double progression, or wave loading progression. Then we have T-bar rows for the back, 5 sets of 8 to 12. After that, dumbbell overhead presses. These hit the anterior delts, but also a bit of upper pecs and triceps. Note that I'm giving a lot more priority here to horizontal pressing than I am to vertical pressing, and this is to give more priority to our pecs. Then we have rope press downs for the triceps, 4 sets of 10 to 15, followed by cable curls for the biceps, 4 sets of 10 to 15, and finally cable lateral raises for the side delts, 4 sets of 10 to 15. And you can actually do a giant set of all 3 of these exercises. So you can do one set after the other, rotating between these with minimal rest. It's a great way to save time without sacrificing productivity. I really like supersetting like this and do it whenever possible. This program has been designed for optimal time efficiency for someone busy like myself. Going on to lower body day 1, we start with sumo deadlifts for the glutes and hamstrings, 3 sets of 5 to 8. For women, I do prefer a sumo stance because this is more hip dominant and will involve the glutes and lower body more so than a conventional stance. After that, Bulgarian split squats for the quads and also the glutes, 3 sets of 8 to 12. Bulgarian split squats are one of the best exercises for really putting a weighted stretch on the glutes. There's new research coming out now in the literature showing that a weighted stretch is beneficial for hypertrophy. In other words, you want to train muscles at their longest lengths. For the glutes, something like a split squat stretches your glutes to a maximum degree at the bottom of the movement. Then we have barbell hip thrust again for the glutes, 3 sets of 10 to 15. You'll see barbell hip thrust coming up twice in this program, and this reflects how I'm making them a priority movement. However, on day 2, they come third in the workout and you're using higher reps and lighter weights, so they do get deprioritized on the second day, more so just to fit in some extra volume. Then we have leg extensions for the quads, 3 sets of 10 to 15. After that, cable hip abductions for the glutes, 2 sets of 12 to 20. These abduction movements lend themselves a lot better to higher reps and lighter weights rather than something like a heavy deadlift. And you do want to have some mix of rep ranges in your program. The idea is that you'll be better able to stimulate fast and slow twitch muscle fibers. Then we have machine calf raises for the calves. We're using a MyRep scheme here again, so one main set of 10 to 15 reps, followed by 5 mini sets of 3 to 5 reps. Coming on to our last workout, upper body 2, we start off with incline dumbbell bench press for the chest, 4 sets of 6 to 10. After that, assisted chin-ups for the back, 5 sets of 6 to 10. I want you to be working up towards doing unassisted chin-ups, but until then I'd rather use this rep range with assistance. Next we have dumbbell skull crushers for the triceps, 4 sets of 8 to 12. Incline curls for the biceps, 4 sets of 8 to 12. And dumbbell lateral raises for the side delts, 3 sets of 8 to 12. And again, note that you can actually do a giant set with all 3 of these exercises, alternating them on a bench. Finally, we have cable lateral raises for the side delts, 3 sets of 12 to 20. Notice that like with the glutes, I make sure to include a stretch type movement for all muscle groups. RDLs train the hamstrings when they're lengthened. Incline dumbbell bench press lets you get a great stretch on your pecs. Assisted chin-ups will stretch your lats if you go all the way down. And skull crushers and incline curls are also stretch type movements. Note that our upper body days have a few more sets than our lower body days do, and this reflects how upper body exercises are just easier than lower body exercises. Plus, you're going to spend more time warming up for heavy movements like deadlifts and RDLs. Let's slip in a little discussion on progression schemes here. Progressive overload is going to be key for results in the gym, and you really need to see yourself as getting stronger over time. There are 4 main methods of progression in bodybuilding that I want you to think about. The first one is single progression, and this is where we're progressing one variable at a time. So for example, using bench press, we might do 5 by 5 and just add 5 pounds whenever we can. This is the simplest form of progression, and it's also the fastest way to progress. As you can imagine, if you're strong enough to add 5 pounds to your bench press every week, you're going to add a lot of weight very quickly. The next type of progression is double progression, and this is where you increase one variable and then increase another. The most common 2 variables would be reps and weight. Let's use bicep curls as an example. If I gave you an 8 to 12 rep range, you might start with 3 sets of 8 with 20 pounds. Then you'll try and add a rep every week. So let's say 3 by 8, then 3 by 9, then 3 by 10. When you get up to 3 by 12 successfully, then the next week you come back to 3 by 8 with heavier weight. So you go from 20 to 25 pounds. Double progression is a very versatile progression method. Next, we have wave loading progression. In this progression scheme, as the weeks go on, you increase the weight and decrease reps. Using bench press as the example, we have that 5 to 8 rep range. You might start off with 4 by 8. The next week you'd add 5 to 10 pounds and go down to 4 by 7, then 4 by 6, then 4 by 5 with heavier and heavier weight. Then eventually you'll come back to that 4 by 8, but now you'll be doing heavier weight than you did the last cycle. I personally like doing weight loading progression in 3-week blocks. So for example, RDL 6 to 10 reps. In week 1, you might do 10 reps. In week 2, you might do 8 reps. And in the 3rd week, you might do 6 reps. Finally, we have triple progression. And in triple progression, you're changing the number of sets, the reps, and the weight as the weeks go by. This is a more complicated form of progression. As you can see, as we go down the list, the progression methods become more complex and better suited for more advanced athletes. I want you to choose a method of progression that allows you to progress as quickly as possible in a sustainable manner. If you're stalling every 2 to 3 weeks, you're probably progressing too aggressively. Okay, now that you've seen the program, let's go over the weekly layout. So here's my preferred setup. Lower body day 1, rest, upper 1, rest, lower 2, upper 2, and rest. Now, typically with an upper lower split, I like to have upper body days coming before lower body days when they come back to back. But that's different in this kind of scenario when you're trying to prioritize your lower body, where you ideally want to go into your heavy lower body day workouts after a rest day. What I want to highlight here is the versatility of the upper lower split, and particularly for 4 days per week. The great thing about upper lower is that you don't have conflict between the days. So we can very easily move around workouts throughout the week without any issue. For instance, I could take this upper body day on Thursday, move it over to Wednesday, or I could take this lower body day on Saturday, move it over to Friday, or I could take this upper body day on Sunday and move it over to the next Monday. This is really powerful for people who have unpredictable schedules. And I wrote this program in mind for someone who might be on call herself and working unpredictable 24-hour shifts like I do. Now, note before that I said that this program could also be run 5 or 6 days per week. If you have an extra day or 2 in the week to program this, you can always just add in an extra day and just run the program as is, alternating days as you otherwise would. So for example, let's say we ran the 4 days of the program through Monday to Saturday. If we had an extra day to train on Sunday, we could always just put lower body day 1 on the Sunday and just continue the cycle. In that case, your days are going to get mixed up throughout the week, but it still will work. And you could also potentially run this 6 days per week. In that case, it might look something like lower 1, upper 1, lower 2, upper 2, lower 1, upper 1. And you just keep alternating days as written. All right, let's talk about the pros and cons of this 4-day upper lower program. Starting with the pros. This program is very flexible, and that's what I really like about the upper lower split. Particularly when set up for 4 days per week, you're able to shuffle around days very easily. And in fact, with this program, you can even run it 5 or 6 days per week. Now, for most people, if your schedule is changing, and let's say you are sometimes able to do 5 days per week, I'd still rather that you just stick to a 4-day program and just be consistent with it. A 4-day program is still going to give you plenty of gains in the long run, but the most important thing is that you're actually consistent and applying progressive overload. If you try and push too hard and go for 6 days some weeks, at some point you might burn out and end up falling off the program. Next, this program is overall well balanced, and I wrote this program with the idea that you wanted to build your upper and lower body well. In my other women's programs, you'll see more of a heavy glute emphasis. Now finally, this program does have a slight glute emphasis, and you'll see this reflected in the set volumes. The upper lower split actually lends itself really well to a lower body emphasis. This is because there are fewer muscle groups to train on your lower body days. Thus, you're able to give your lower body the attention that you want to give it, and you can fit in some more bootylicious volume. All right, finally, let's touch on disadvantages of this program. First of all, arms come after pushing and pulling. This is an inherent disadvantage to the upper lower split, and it's also seen in push-pull legs, where your biceps and triceps come after pushing and pulling movements. Since biceps and triceps are used indirectly in your compound pushing and pulling, they will be slightly fatigued by the time you get to the direct work later in the workout, and they may not perform as well as if you had a day where they get trained fresh. This isn't a big deal in this program, particularly since our emphasis is more on glutes. And in addition to that, we also have less emphasis on the upper body in this program. We see this come about because we have more muscles to train in the upper body, so we have more work to fit in onto those upper body days. For example, you'll see we only have 2 exercises for the back in this program, and this is because I wanted it to be time efficient. Once you start having a lot of exercises in one workout, you're spending a lot of time warming up for exercises and waiting for machines. Now, I will be sharing this program as an Excel file in my Facebook group, so if you want to run it, you can join the group. The link is in the description below, and you can download the program for free. If you're looking to shed some fat, check out my book, Dr. Swole's Fat Loss and Body Recomposition Manual. This book guides you through building up your nutrition from the ground up and will really help you to get the body that you want. If you want to see an example of a 3-day program designed for women, check out this video where I share a full program designed using the full body split. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you really want those glutes popping, and we'll see you next time.